I froze in the doorway, unable to move or breathe. There they were, my husband of 8 years and my own mother, tangled in each other's arms on the couch I had picked out when we first moved in. The couch where we'd spent countless movie nights. The couch where I'd nursed my daughter through her fevers. My vision tunneled as I watched them spring apart, their faces transforming from passion to horror in an instant as they finally noticed me standing there. "It's not what you think," they both stammered in pathetic unison, but the half-empty wine glasses, discarded clothing, and guilty expressions told the real story. My mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me from pain, had become the source of my greatest heartbreak. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. The lingering glances. The inside jokes. The way my mother would find any excuse to drop by when my husband David was working from home. But when you're busy raising a family, working 50 hours a week, and trying to keep everything together, you don't always notice what's happening right under your nose. My name is Rebecca, and 6 months ago, my life was completely different. I had what I thought was a happy marriage to David, my college sweetheart. We had two beautiful children, Emma, who's 7, and little Ethan, who just turned 4. We lived in a comfortable home in a quiet suburb outside of Seattle, and my mother lived just 20 minutes away. She moved closer to us after my father passed away 3 years ago, and at the time, I was grateful for her presence. How ironic that feels now. I work as a marketing executive for a tech company downtown. It's demanding work, but I've always been passionate about my career. David is, or I should say was, a software developer who switched to remote work when the pandemic hit and never went back to the office. Our arrangement seemed perfect. I had the demanding job with the higher salary, while David had the flexibility to be there for the kids after school and manage more of the day-to-day household responsibilities. My mother, Carol, was 58 and had been a widow for 3 years. After Dad died from a sudden heart attack, she seemed lost. I encouraged her to move closer to us, to be part of our everyday lives. She found a small townhouse nearby and quickly became a fixture in our home. She'd bring over home-cooked meals, help with the kids, and offer to take them for weekends so David and I could have couple time. I thought she was being supportive. I never imagined she was inserting herself into my marriage in the most devastating way possible. The day everything fell apart was an ordinary Thursday in November. I was supposed to be at an all-day off-site meeting, but it got canceled at the last minute when our client had an emergency. I decided to surprise everyone by coming home early, maybe taking the kids out for ice cream or to the park to enjoy the rare sunny afternoon. I remember feeling happy as I pulled into our driveway, noticing my mother's red Camry parked in front of our house. Perfect, I thought. The kids will be thrilled to see both of us early. I used my key and entered quietly, thinking maybe I could surprise them all. The house was oddly quiet. No TV cartoon sounds. No children's laughter. I called out, "Hello? Anyone home?" No answer. I checked the backyard first, thinking maybe they were playing outside, but it was empty. I went upstairs to check the kids' rooms, but they weren't there either. That's when I noticed a text from my mother sent an hour earlier that I hadn't seen because I was driving, taking kids to that new indoor playground. Back around 5. Something felt off. If my mother had taken the kids out, why was her car still in my driveway? And where was David? His home office door was open, computers still on, but he wasn't there. I heard a muffled sound coming from downstairs, from our living room. It sounded like hushed voices. That's when I walked downstairs and around the corner to witness the scene I described earlier, my husband and my mother entangled on our family couch, so engrossed in each other they didn't notice me until I'd been standing there for several long seconds. Time seemed to stand still in that moment. I remember noticing bizarre details, how my mother's lipstick was smeared across her face, how David's wedding ring glinted in the afternoon sunlight streaming through our windows, how the throw pillow my best friend had given us as a housewarming gift had fallen to the floor. "Rebecca." David jumped up, hastily adjusting his clothing. This isn't. Don't you dare, I whispered, my voice shaking. Don't you dare say this isn't what it looks like. My mother was frantically buttoning her blouse, her face ashen. Sweetheart, please, let us explain. Explain? Explain? My voice rose with each word. What exactly is there to explain, Mom? How long has this been going on? Were you sleeping with my husband under my roof while I was working to support this family? While I trusted you both with my children. They exchanged a guilty look that told me everything. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was an affair. The kids, David said weakly. They're with your mother's neighbor. We asked her to. So you planned this, I said, the realization dawning on me. You arranged childcare so you could, in our home, in our living room. I felt physically ill. The room started spinning, and I had to grip the doorframe to steady myself. Rebecca, please sit down. You look like you're going to faint, my mother said, taking a step toward me. Don't touch me. I backed away. Don't you dare come near me. David approached instead, his hands outstretched in a placating gesture. Becca, I know this looks terrible. Looks terrible? It is terrible. It's disgusting. My own mother, David? My mother. It just happened, he stammered. We never meant to. Things like this don't just happen, I said. How long? How long has this been going on? They exchanged another look, and my stomach dropped. 6 months, my mother finally admitted, her voice small. Since your birthday weekend when you went to that conference in Chicago. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of betrayal. Half a year of them looking me in the eye every day while hiding the secret. My birthday weekend. When I was worried about leaving because Emma had been sick the week before, but my mother had insisted she would take good care of everything. Go enjoy yourself, sweetheart. You deserve it. David and I have everything under control here. I bet they did. Get out, I said to my mother, my voice deadly calm. Get out of my house and don't come back. Rebecca, please. Get out. I screamed, pointing to the door. Take your things and leave before I say something I can't take back. My mother gathered her purse and jacket with trembling hands. We need to talk about this when you've calmed down. There is nothing to talk about, I said. Nothing. You're not my mother anymore. No mother would do this to her child. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. Good. I wanted her to hurt even a fraction of what I was feeling. After she left, the silence between David and me was deafening. He tried again to speak, but I cut him off. I want you gone by the time the kids get home, I said. Pack a bag and leave. I don't care where you go. Rebecca, please, we need to think about the children. You should have thought about our children before you started sleeping with their grandmother, I spat. What were you thinking? Did you expect we'd all just continue being one big happy family once I found out? Did you think I wouldn't find out? We were going to end it, he said miserably. We both felt terrible. Oh, clearly, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You both looked absolutely torn up with guilt just now. He had no response to that. I'll go stay at a hotel tonight, he finally said. But we need to talk tomorrow, for the kids' sake if nothing else. I nodded stiffly, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. After he went upstairs to pack, I sank down onto our kitchen floor and allowed myself to cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then I pulled myself together, because in less than an hour, my children would be home, and they needed their mother to be strong. That night was one of the hardest of my life. I told the kids that Daddy had to go away for work suddenly, a temporary lie that felt necessary to shield them from the ugly truth. Emma, perceptive as always, asked why my eyes were red. I told her I had allergies. After they went to bed, I sat alone in my kitchen with a glass of wine, trying to make sense of what had happened. How had my mother, the woman who had taught me about self-respect and dignity, betrayed me so completely? How had my husband, the man who had promised to love and honor me, fallen into an affair with someone 20 years his senior who happened to be his wife's mother? The questions kept circling in my mind with no answers. I checked my phone and saw 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages from both of them. I turned my phone off. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, tearful conversations with the children, and awkward arrangements for exchanging the kids for David's visitation time. I refused to see or speak to my mother, having all communication go through my younger sister, who was as horrified by our mother's behavior as I was. David moved into an apartment near his office. My mother, I learned from my sister, had decided to move back to our hometown in Oregon, 4 hours away. Good riddance. The hardest part was explaining to the children what was happening. After a week of the daddies on a work trip story, I knew I had to tell them something closer to the truth. With the help of a child psychologist, I explained that Daddy and I were going to live in separate houses because we were having adult problems that weren't their fault. I didn't mention their grandmother's role in our separation. They were too young to understand, and despite everything, I didn't want to damage their relationship with her. That decision was one of many complicated choices I would have to make in the coming months. About 3 weeks after D-Day, as I came to call the day of discovery, I was sorting through some papers in David's home office when I found something that made my blood run cold: a brochure for a retirement community in Arizona, with notes in both David's and my mother's handwriting. There were calculations about selling both of their properties, combining finances, and notes about telling our after the holidays. They had been planning a future together. This wasn't just a physical affair. They had been planning to build a life together. The revelation sent me into another tailspin of grief and rage. I confronted David during a custody exchange, shoving the brochure in his face. "Were you planning to run off into the sunset with my mother? Were you going to take my children to Arizona to play happy family with their grandmother turned stepmother?" For once, he had no excuses. "It was just talk," he said weakly. "Fantasies." "Well, I hope it was worth it," I said. "I hope destroying our family was worth your disgusting fantasy." The divorce proceedings were contentious, to say the least. David tried to argue for 50-50 custody, which I opposed not because I wanted to keep him from the children, but because I was genuinely concerned about the environment they would be in if my mother was present during his parenting time. In the end, we reached a settlement agreement. He got the kids every other weekend and one evening a week, with the stipulation that my mother would not be present during his parenting time until the children had completed a course of therapy to help them understand the changes in their family structure. Financial matters were complicated by the fact that I was the primary breadwinner. David's lawyer tried to argue for significant spousal support, but given the circumstances of our divorce, the judge was less sympathetic than he might have been otherwise. Throughout all of this, I was going through my own therapy, trying to make sense of the double betrayal I had experienced. My therapist helped me see that what happened wasn't my fault. There was nothing I could have done differently to prevent two adults who were supposed to love me from making such destructive choices. "They didn't cheat because of anything lacking in you," she told me repeatedly. "They cheated because of what was lacking in themselves." It took time for those words to sink in, but eventually they did. 6 months have passed since that terrible day. The divorce is final. The children are adjusting to our new normal with the help of therapy and a consistent co-parenting schedule. David and I communicate only about the children, using a co-parenting app that records all our conversations. My mother continues to try to contact me, sending letters of apology and reaching out through my sister. I'm not ready to forgive her. I may never be. The children speak to her on the phone occasionally, which is painful for me but necessary for them. As for David, I've heard through mutual friends that he and my mother are no longer seeing each other. Their relationship apparently couldn't survive the harsh light of day and the consequences of their actions. I can't say I'm surprised. A relationship built on such a profound betrayal was unlikely to flourish. I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I bought a smaller house closer to my work and the children's school. I've reconnected with old friends and even started dating again, though very cautiously. The children are resilient, though Emma sometimes asks difficult questions about why Grandma doesn't come over anymore. There are still hard days. Days when the anger feels fresh and overwhelming. Days when I look at old family photos and wonder if any of it was real. Days when I question my own judgment. How did I not see what was happening under my own roof? But there are good days too. Days when I realize I'm stronger than I ever knew. Days when the children and I create new traditions for our smaller family unit. Days when I catch myself laughing genuinely for the first time in months. I'm sharing this story not for sympathy, but because I know I'm not alone in experiencing betrayal. If you're going through something similar, please know that as impossible as it seems now, you will survive this. You will find your way through the darkness. You will learn to trust again, starting with trusting yourself. The pain doesn't completely go away, but it does transform. It becomes something you carry rather than something that carries you. And eventually, you realize that those who betrayed you don't deserve to determine your future happiness. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Today, I know it was just beginning. A different life than I had planned, but perhaps a more authentic one where I'm no longer surrounded by lies and betrayal, but by genuine care and respect. To those who are just beginning this journey, hold on. The road is long and difficult, but you are stronger than you know. And there is life, good, meaningful life, on the other side of betrayal. Update: it's now been a year since that fateful day, and I wanted to share where things stand. David and I have settled into a workable co-parenting relationship. It's not friendly, but it's civil, which is all I can ask for. The children continue to thrive, though they still have questions and moments of sadness about our family breaking apart. My mother moved back to our hometown after her relationship with David ended. She continues to send birthday and holiday gifts to the children, which I allow them to accept. She and I had one face-to-face conversation 6 months ago, mediated by my therapist. I told her exactly how her betrayal had affected me, and while she expressed deep remorse, I still don't see a path to having her back in my life in any meaningful way. The most surprising development has been my own personal growth. I've started a support group for women dealing with similar betrayals, which has been tremendously healing. I've also been promoted at work and have found time to rediscover hobbies I had abandoned during my marriage. My advice to anyone facing such a devastating betrayal is this: feel your feelings, but don't let them consume you. Seek professional help. Set boundaries that protect your well-being. And remember that healing isn't linear. You'll have setbacks, and that's normal. Most importantly, remember that you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by how you respond to it. And responding with dignity, self-care, and eventually forgiveness, not for them, but for yourself, is the greatest victory you can achieve. Life goes on, and it can be beautiful again. Different, but beautiful. I promise.